Hi, everybody. My name's Rida, and I'm here with my Pakistani MIL. If you guys don't know us, we're like kind of going on TikTok like viral, but we finally reached 50K on TikTok, and we wanted to make a podcast and kind of talk about the South Asian community and how it's kind of toxic, and there's a lot of stuff that is unsaid in South Asian communities. Um, and obviously, I have my Pakistani mother in law with me, and she's going to kind of talk about her story. Um, the first thing first is we want to start the story from the very beginning, because people who are listening for the first time might not know like the backstory. But basically, let's start from like when you like grew up and stuff. Like, how was your life with your parents? Like, what was normal for you guys? Like, were your parents strict? Were they not strict? How was it?
Um, our parents were very strict. We weren't allowed to play outside with any friends. We weren't allowed to go to any friends' homes. Um, but our friends were allowed to come over. We weren't allowed to have any sleepovers. Um, but my friends were aware of that, and we kind of grew up all together, like say from elementary school all the way throughout high school. It was like with the same friends. Um, so we all knew, like everybody in the neighborhood knew everybody. Um, so, we went to school, came home. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. And pretty much that's it. That was our life.
Okay. So were you close to your parents, both of your parents, or just
Um, Not really. As kids, um, my mom was always busy. She had five kids, and raising five kids, and my dad was always at work, so she had a busy life. My parents had a busy life, so we really didn't have time to get close to them.
Mhm.
They were just always busy.
Okay, makes sense.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about your first marriage. Um, Tell me everything from the beginning in detail. How old were you? What happened? Did you have a big wedding? Did you have a small wedding? Did your friends know? Just tell me everything.
Um, my aunt was married. My aunt, my mom's sister, she was married. She brought somebody from Pakistan to the States. She got married over there, and he ended up here, and they were together for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And I don't know what happened between them, and she left him. She just got up and left. So at the time, she was living at her mom's house, my grandma's house. And when she left, the husband was still there. So he didn't have any family here. Um, so just a few months after, um, I was 15. I was in ninth grade, I believe. And there was just, hush hush conversations. Um, and then they, my mother told me that you're getting married, and I'm going to get married to my uncle. Um, he's a good man. His wife wasn't a good person. She left him. She took off. So we're going to have you marry him. Um, so I heard her talk to my dad, like, yeah, my sister said, you know what, if her daughters were old enough, she would totally marry one of her daughters off with him. But you know what, my daughters are still young, and your daughter is older. So we should get have her marry him. I was 15 years old. I was in ninth grade. So I don't know how she thought that I was old enough. And my mom took the bait and came home and talked to my dad. And my dad had a problem with it, that they were arguing, and she didn't. She was like, no, no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. The purpose of this was, since his wife had left, he didn't have any reason to be staying in my grandma's house. So they were trying to do him a favor by, giving him a reason to stay in the States. Um, I believe he did have his green card by then. Um, and before I knew it, I was getting married. It happened at my house with just a few families from my dad's side, a few families from my mom's side, and I was a kid, so I wasn't really excited or anything. It was just like kind of scared, like, oh my God, what's going on? And I do remember, like, nothing was planned, because I was the oldest from my siblings, and I remember sitting in a room, and everyone, my older cousins who were older than me, like a lot older than me, and weren't married yet, and they were just coming in there, and oh, so you're getting married, and oh my God, who's gonna do your makeup? I'm like, makeup? Well, makeup for what? And not, like nothing was planned out. I'm like, makeup for what? My parents didn't arrange anything. I didn't know, like, okay, so someone's gonna come do my makeup. So there wasn't anybody. She's like, oh, okay, fine, it's okay, I'll do your makeup. So it was just like, it was everything just happened really fast, and it was just kind of scary. Like, oh my God, I'm marrying my uncle. Here's this man who I've always called uncle, and he's gonna be my husband. So we got married, and we were married for 3 years, and during the 3 years we stayed together for about a year. The other 2 years he was always just going back and forth, going to Pakistan, going out there having his vacations. And um, I was at my mom's house whenever he was gone. And I was still going to school, took the school bus to school, and came back home on the bus. And a few of my friends did know, and a couple of teachers had asked me, so, hey, Xala, like, we heard you're married. Are you married? And I didn't know what to say. And I'm like, yes. I just kind of nodded my head, and they didn't say anything. And, it was embarrassing. It was really embarrassing. Um, Going to school so young and always trying to hide um, from your friends that you're actually a married person. Um, it was, I don't know what to say. It was just really odd, and it was scary. And um, so we had to stop by the office when, say, for some reason, if you're tardy to school, so we would have to get a slip to go back to to go to your classroom, and it always had to be signed by the parents or um, an adult. And so I remember the secretary in the office. She was like, "Oh, you don't have to." You don't have to have it signed by an adult anymore. Since you're married, you can sign it yourself. So obviously, some of the teachers knew about it. Um, but I'm like, okay, fine. So I started writing my own notes when that, like, I wasn't absent from school a lot, but whenever I was, if they were like, okay, you just write your own note and bring it in, and you're good because you're married. So I was like, okay. Um, so I, like, we lived in my parents' house for a while, and then my parents wanted us to get our own apartment, so we got our own apartment. Um, so he was a janitor and he worked at night, so I took the bus to school. I would walk to the corner, get on the bus, and go to school, and then he would work at night. And when he After a while, he wanted me to start going to work with him because um, so I can help him and he would get done quicker. And, like he would be done in half the time. So at night, I would go with him to work and we would come home in the middle of the night. I'd come home, sleep for a couple of hours, and then I had school in the morning. So it kind of became a routine to help him with work in the middle of the night. He cleaned like the government buildings, like social services or bowling alleys or whatever buildings. And so I would take care of the vacuum and dust the offices, and then he would do the rest, and we'd be done it in half the time. And it was that's what I did. I really didn't get my sleep because I was awake all night, um, going to work with him, and then early in the morning, or say like if we came home in the middle of the night, and then he'd just drive around, wander around. I guess he was still in love with his wife, his ex-wife, and sometimes he wanted to drive around to see if he can see her somewhere, run into her, and while he would be driving around, I'd kind of get my sleep in the back seat sometimes. Um, so yeah, that's
Okay.
that's what happened.
Okay, back up. Why did his first wife leave him?
Um, I don't know what happened between them two, but I do know that she did find somebody else and she went and got married.
Okay.
Yeah, so she just kind of took off.
Okay. And how much older was he than you?
I think 13, 14 years older. And he was my uncle. It's really uncomfortable. Like there's this man who we called uncle, and then now they're his role is different now. He's your husband. Um, Everybody in the family was talking about it. People were laughing, joking around. Oh, ha ha ha! You heard stories from all over that that's not right. They're dumb. They're this. They shouldn't be doing this. That's her uncle, and I do agree with what they were saying. But um, my parents, they listened to my mom's sister, and it was kind of like, because after the aunt left, that uncle, I guess he had some kind of a friendship with the aunt, with a certain aunt, and they were trying to be on his side, trying to look good, like, okay, we're going to help you out, we understand it's our sister who ran off, so we're going to hook you up here so you can stay here, so you have a reason to stay. So
The
that's
aunt that ran off. Like, do you still talk to her, or
no, I mean, I don't have any.
do you know where she is and stuff?
She's probably still with the family, yeah. But at the time she took off, she went to a different country and took off for years. The family disowned her. There was no contact with her, and no one ever talked to her. No one knew where she was. Um, and she came back years later. Um, so the family didn't have anything to do with her. And she went when she found out somehow. Obviously, she was talking to somebody. She found out she was probably talking to that one aunt because I know that they were really close. But when she found out that my parents were having me marry him, she did try to, you know, talking to, I guess, her mother, my grandmother, saying, you guys are making a mistake. It's not going to allow. I don't know what excuses what she told them, but she did try to help out, but no one listened to her, thinking, okay, no. Um, they were just blaming her because she found her own man and she took off. So that they kind of held that against her. Um, so they weren't going to listen to what she had to say, regardless, because they were going to help out this third person who was not even a part of the family.
So your parents didn't ask you if you want to get married? They just told you?
I was 15 years old. Even if they would have asked me, I don't know how I would have answered, but no, they didn't ask me. They told me, okay, so you're going to get married. And if a 15-year-old person is a child, you can't just ask them and then expect for that person to make a decision. So if I say, no, I don't want to marry him, so what was I going to do? Where was I going to go? Who was going to take me? Um, Obviously, I was afraid of my parents, and I just kind of went along with whatever they had planned. Um, so yeah, it just kind of happened. Um, we got married, um, and then we argued a lot um, because he wanted me to go to work with him, and I didn't want to go because and then when I was going to school, I'd be really tired. I would be taking little naps in class and during lunch. Um, I remember one morning when I was walking to the bus stop. I got to the bus stop and I was really tired from last night because I had just come from work. And I was still waiting for the bus, and I just kind of looked down at my feet, and I was wearing a black shoe and a red shoe because I was just so tired in the morning. It's like I wasn't even paying attention to what I was doing. They were the same type of shoes, but different colors. So I was like, oh my God, so I had to miss the bus. I was like, okay, if I walk back to the apartment, then I'm going to miss the bus. So if I miss the bus, I'm not going to have a ride to school because he's going to be sleeping and he's not going to want to take me. And I didn't want to go with him because I didn't want anyone at the school to see me with him. So I just walked back home, and I had to miss school that day because I didn't have a ride. Um, so there was just like a lot of little things.
So you lived in your own apartment. Was that weird?
Yes, we've got our own apartment.
Did you guys like did
He,
you like cook and clean and everything?
yes, I didn't know how to cook a lot, but I did what I knew. He was always upset that I didn't know how to cook, like these packy dishes. But I did what I could because I was 15 years old. I didn't cook at home. I know how to, make an egg or an omelet, like just very simple things. And um, but I did what I could. I mean, you know, what else could I have done? He knew I was 15 years old. He, like I was a child, but he was an adult. He could have made a better decision than to just go along with the family. But obviously, he had something in it for him too. Um, so yeah,
So was there ever a point where you like fell in love with him?
no,
Not even like
no,
never.
no. We
Okay.
we weren't even like friends. Like it was like it was not a relationship. It was just really scary. It was um like I was just always afraid of him. He was kind of mean and um complained about a lot of things. Well, your parents didn't give me this, your parents didn't give me this, and so he was just really
Did
verbally abusive.
Was he ever physically abusive?
Um yeah, he hit me once. I think he slapped me once, and I don't know what happened and how it happened, but I punched him back. He just looked at me like, what the hell? So, yeah, I don't know how I was able to do that. It just kind of happened. It was like I didn't think about it, but it just happened.
Hell yeah.
So, um, and I just started crying, and then my parents didn't live too far away, so I I started walking to my parents' house, and I went there, and um, my dad understood. He was like, okay, so what happened? Did he hate you? I'm like, yeah, he did. So that they were really surprised to see me alone because they knew I didn't drive. So they were like, okay, so where is he at? I'm like, well, he's home. So my dad's like, well, you know what? Um, he was just really mad. He was just cussing. Okay, like he's not going to hit my daughter and this and that. And he was like, don't worry, you know what? So we're going to divorce him. Like, okay, it was their decision for me to marry him, and it was their decision to say, okay, so we're gonna leave him because he hit you. I'm like, okay, fine. So like we really weren't like we didn't like it wasn't like a I don't I don't see I never saw it as a real relationship because he was a lot older. Not only that, it wasn't the age, it was just that he was my uncle. And you can't call someone uncle one day and the next day he's your husband. That to me, even as a kid, even as a 15-year-old kid, that to me seemed wrong. So there was a teacher at school. Um, Somehow, I guess we started talking, and she was helping me out. She was like, okay, you know what? So this is what you need to do, and this is how you're going to do it. And she kind of guided me into, okay, you take your stuff and you just leave and this and that. And, she was really nice. She really, really, she was very helpful, gave me some advice. And um, I will never forget, she was a very good English teacher. Um, so yeah, so I was with him for a total of 3 years. So it was like it started in ninth grade, ninth, 10th, 11th, maybe at the end of ninth grade. So when I was a senior in high school, I was divorced with him. So we were divorced
Why did you get divorced?
because it was my parents' decision. Like, okay, you know what? He hit you, so we're gonna get divorced. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. I mean, like for a person so young, it's like you don't. I don't know. I didn't think I was old enough to make that decision, even to get married or to get divorced. Um, so before I graduated high school, I was already divorced. I was
So,
still in high school.
so I know you blame your Kala. Obviously,
Yeah, it was all
she
her
had,
plan. She planned it all.
but
Manipulated my mom.
do you also kind of blame your
Of
parents?
course I do. Yeah, it was their fault too. Because if she was trying to do him a favor, my parents, I was their daughter. They were supposed to be the smart ones. Nobody can come and tell you, hey, you know what, let's do this, and they're gonna just throw their daughter away. So yes, it was their fault. Of course, I do blame my parents.
When when you got divorced, then what happened? Like you obviously moved back to your parents' house.
I got divorced, and yes, I did move back to my parents' house, and then high school graduation came, and I was, I mean,
And then it was time for your second marriage.
yeah, high school graduation came, and I had my dad was really sick. He had gotten into a car accident, and I didn't even have a ride to my graduation. So I had to ask a friend if she would give me a ride to my high school graduation. And that was very sweet of her. She came and she brought me flowers, and we went, and that's how I ended up at my high school graduation after I had to ask someone for a ride. So none of my parents, no siblings, nobody was there for my high school graduation because that's just how my family was. Um, And then I guess I don't know how this works, but I believe that they said that you have to, I guess in I don't know exactly, but they say after your divorce you have to wait a year and then you can get married again. So they were trying, my parents were waiting for that year to pass so they could hurry up and get me out of the house again. Um, that year was over and they're like, okay, it's time for you to get married again. So we're going to Pakistan and we're going to get married. So I'm like, okay, fine. I didn't,
Okay, we can talk about that in the second episode. Your second marriage.
yeah.
But for your first marriage, like, did you end up forgiving your parents?
Well, they were my parents. I love my parents, of course, but everybody makes mistakes. And yes, of course, I forgave my parents, and my dad apologized multiple times. Like yes, it was a mistake. So and so just it was she talked us into it, and da 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 and da. She talked my mom into it because she was my mom's sister, and then my mom talked my dad into it because my dad, and mom had a really good understanding, I say. Um, so my mom knew how to control my dad and she talked him into it. Um, and yes, that's what happened.
Dang, mom. So you had a
Yeah,
traumatizing childhood.
yes, I'd say that. Um, yeah, it's like you just got married and I was always afraid to go to the grocery store with him. I didn't want to be seen with him by any of my friends. Like we lived in a very small, like town, a little town at the side of a town. Everybody kind of knew everybody and you would always run into someone. So
What did the Kala say when you wanted to divorce him? I'm sure she had some
I didn't have any conversation.
words.
I didn't have any conversation with her ever. It was just her and my mom, and I had just spoke to my dad, and it was my that it was my dad's decision that if he hits you, you're not going back to him. So it wasn't something that I don't think my mom would have said or done anything because my mom was usually she would usually listen to her sisters, like everything was about them, and it was my dad who helped me out of the marriage. He helped me even though that they did make a mistake, but he was also the one who got me out of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you have anything else to add? Any final words?
um no, I was happy to get out of the marriage, but then I knew, from their conversations that okay, so now it's just going to happen all over again.
Yeah.
So
Do you
obviously I
wish you
was
had
scared.
like a different childhood?
Well, of course, nobody wants to get married as a kid at that age. I mean, you don't even think about. I mean, that's something that doesn't even cross your mind at that age. Like you're over here thinking, okay, I'm getting graduate high school, go to college, and I do like our people in our culture, they do have arranged marriages. It still happens today. A lot of them work out, but this wasn't just an arranged marriage.
This was a child marriage.
This was something totally different. It was a marriage of a 15-year-old child, and then the other, that child is not marrying just like, say, it wasn't somebody that they had specially found for me. It was a transaction that they made, um, for me to marry my uncle. So that was unacceptable. He was my uncle. That wasn't something that should have been allowed. If my parents were smart enough, they shouldn't even have considered it.
Yeah.
So Yeah, it's
And
like
just to clarify, he wasn't an uncle by blood because a lot
no.
of people are like, oh, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
blah.
no, no, he wasn't. He wasn't a relative. We weren't related in any way.
But he was your uncle because
But
he
he
was
was
your
still
aunt's
my
husband.
uncle. He was a man who I called uncle. He was my uncle. He was married to my aunt. So that just that was wrong right there. Just that by itself is torture. Like having, like being afraid to sit next to somebody who, like, it wasn't, and I don't think he ever, I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't in it for love or, because I felt he loved his previous wife. He was very happy. He would always talk about her and look for her and, we did this and we did that, or she did this way, you're doing this way. You can't compare me with my aunt. She was an adult. I'm a child. I obviously she dressed different, and I'm still, jeans t-shirt person. um I'm not that adult who dresses a certain way. He would always compare me with her. Like, oh, she was this, and he would always talk really good about her. He really liked her. And I was just kind of there because he just obviously he wanted a reason to hang around. And my mom's sister was behind the whole thing. I've never said that. I've never talked about this in the past, but she was behind the whole thing, according to my parents. A 15-year-old is a child. I understand. Well, obviously for them, I wasn't a child. But when the parents talk, like, kids listen to everything that the parents talk about. They think that we're not going to understand. But when the parents talking around the house, oh, so and so did this, so and so said this, it's like we're not trying to snoop. But when you're in the same home and you listen to what the parents are saying, some stories just kind of stick to you and you remember. So that's just what happened. And I don't know what else to say. So we lasted 3 years. We got a
Mm-hmm.
divorce, and
That was that.
that's it. I don't know where he went. I don't know. I had, that was the last I had seen
You
or heard
seen
from
or
him.
heard from him? Okay.
Hmm. But I do know, um, just hearing from family, after I got divorced, that same aunt was the one who was talking to him. Like he still was talking to her.
Oh my god.
So that just more,
We need to give this aunt a nickname.
mm, I don't know if she deserves that, but
Diane.
um, yeah. So n- if I was your niece and you really had that, like you talked your sister into it. So if your sister first got divorced and then your niece now is divorced, so why are you talking to him? What relationship or friendship do you have with him that he's still contacting you and
Maybe
you two
she
are still
liked
talking?
him. Maybe she had a
No, I
crush
don't
on
think
him.
so. I don't think
She
so. It's
wanted
just
him
that
secretly.
she just wanted to always be the big special person in the family. Oh, like just trying to
Well, Auntie, if you're
look
watching
good.
this, you have ruined people's lives.
But yes, that's what happened. Um, that's it. I
Okay.
don't know what else to say.
Well, that concludes our episode. Do you want to say anything to our followers or anybody that would watch this?
Um, I I just hope people learn from these stories. I know a lot of people out there are in arranged marriages and they're happy, and then a lot of them are not happy. Um, if the parents need to think of their centered daughter's wellness or benefits before they look for somebody. Don't just listen to somebody and say, "Oh yeah, okay, you know what?" So, like, it's not a like mine was like a business deal. It was like, okay, it was a transaction. It wasn't for my well-being. It wasn't like that they were looking for a husband for me, um, so I can be happy. There wasn't any happiness involved in any with the decisions that they made. It wasn't about me. It wasn't for me. It was just for the aunt to look good. Oh, you know what? She hooked her up, and okay, so now he has a reason to stay. So it wasn't about me. It was about them. It wasn't about my happiness. So think of your kids' happiness before you go out and hook them up with somebody. It doesn't matter where they are, overseas, in different countries, here, local, down the street.
Hmm. And don't get
It's not
children
that.
married.
Yeah. And when your child is not ready to get married, when they want to get married, they will tell you. They will tell you when they're ready to get married. Don't just decide, okay, well, you know what, now you're 16 years old, and now you're going to get married tomorrow with someone. And that's exactly what happened with me. It's like, okay, everything happened in a few days, and before you know it, I was over here married. That's it. The end.